It's time for the Postmortem Report with your hosts Ronald McGilray and Michael Schotter. Each month, these sultans of speculative fiction take a break from bending reality to ask one burning question. What cool stuff got buried in the social media graveyard while people were busy yelling at each other? Well, there's only one way to find out, so let's dig into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Postmortem Report. I'm your co-host, Michael Schotter.
And I'm Ronald McGilray. Welcome to episode 11.
We're like Spinal Tap. We're taking it to 11.
That's right. 10 wasn't good enough for us.
No. You gotta always go that extra mile. So what have you been?
Fantastic episode.
Oh, you're really setting expectations much higher than you probably should, but that's okay. We'll power through it. If you're going to go to 11, you got to go all the way, I guess.
Exactly.
So,
lots of interesting things.
What's new and exciting in your neck of the woods?
Well, probably about the same thing as you. We both hooked up to a new app.
Yes.
Yes, the Stride Kick app. So if anyone's doing walking or tracking their walking, you should join us.
Yes. I guess we could call this like your fitness cult.
Yeah.
Is that on brand?
Yeah. Genre fitness cult. Well, spring is there. Winter's over. I spent the whole winter looking at the snow, sitting on my ass, gorging with food. And came out of hibernation and looked in the mirror, and I was quite shocked, frankly, at what I saw. And I thought, I should do more. Should try to eat a bit healthier, get more exercise in. So,
excellent.
That's what I'm going to do. Went for a walk today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, you want to make sure you see as many future springs as possible, and that's a good way to do it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, every year you survive, there's another thing you get to have, and that's another birthday.
Yes.
So
Is it birthday time
to talk about some birthdays. You ready to do that?
I certainly am.
Excellent.
All right. So let's hit some birthdays that you may have missed that we're going to let you know so you can make up for your bad
tardiness.
That's right. So we'll start off with good friend Donna Latham, whose birthday was April 15th. You can check out her poetry collection, Compulsions. You should do that. So give Donna, if you missed her birthday, give her a shout and buy her book. Happy birthday, Donna. Cerver Pike, also April 15th, author of Kin of the Fallen. This brand new release. Check it out. It's been getting lots of good feedback. So happy birthday, Cerver. My good friend, Brian Bowyer. I was going to bring a little ukulele up that I had. It's got like 2 strings, been sitting there, and I was going to do a guitar thing. But since I can't even play the ukulele, I'm just embarrassing myself. So I'll have to just wish Brian, whose birthday is April 17th, a happy birthday. His book, Alive Undead, is an exceptional book. I would suggest that people check that out. But many of his books are excellent.
Yeah, we covered that book in a recent episode, so be sure to go check that out if you haven't already. And actually, that kind of got me thinking. I'll have to admit that I have not actually read any of his stuff yet, and it sort of made me consider, like, would that be a good book to start with? Because I've been thinking about shuffling him up on my TBR. Would you say that that's a good starting point?
Yeah, I would think so. Do you like vampires? You're not adverse to vampires?
I can get down with some good vampire action. Yeah.
This would be a good one. It's a fast, really snappy, lots of characters, lots of stuff going on. Another one I would suggest is Sinister Mix, a short story collection. If you want to read a bunch of different stories, it's and shorter, and sort of get a feel for his style. Because a lot of times, especially with horror, I mean, you being a genre writer and a genre fan as well, I don't think you're going to have an issue. But a lot of people ask me, "Oh, should I read this?" I see you post it, and I said, "Well, not knowing what they like in horror, I try to stick to short stories collections first. Try a short story collection, see how you like, because I don't know what people like. So that was usually my go-to. But I don't think you can go wrong with Alive Undead. But Sinister Mix, definitely take a look at those two and make your pick. And you can let us know on one of the next episodes of Postmortem Report.
That's right. I'm on the hook now.
There you go. So happy birthday, Brian. Hope you had a great day. Another April 19th birthday, Gregory Lamberson, the director, writer of Guns of Eden, along with a plethora of books. So happy birthday to Greg. Hope you had a great day. Adam Nevill, April 19th, the writer of The Ritual. I saw actually a post the other day by Jennifer Smith, and I was just thinking, it was such a good story, The Ritual. And then they had the movie as well. I don't know if you've seen
it. No, that's actually one I'm not familiar with. So that's good to know that you enjoyed it.
Yeah. So happy birthday to Adam. Eric Butler, April 26th, the author of Dawn, Texas series. There's a whole plethora of books. You can check that out. So happy birthday to Eric. And finally, Ronald Malfi, his birthday, April 28th. His book, Ghostwritten, is out right now. So check that out. And that wraps up our birthdays for this episode. So happy birthday, everybody.
Winging a hit. Good times. Well, we're getting into some nice spring-like weather as we cruise here into the happy spring summer transition time, and that provides all sorts of opportunities for fun outdoor activities. And there's one that we've mentioned previously on the show at this particular juncture that I think will get a little bit of a second shot at you here with this nice little advertisement. Check this thing out.
Enjoy.
Howdy, y'all. This here's Mike. Down at Mike's Golf Shop, where we buy golf. That's right. We buy golf clubs. Mike's Golf Shop. Come on over here. We buy golf clubs. Over at Mike's Golf Shop. Come on down here. We buy golf clubs. That's right. We buy golf clubs. We buy golf clubs. We buy golf clubs. We buy golf clubs. We buy golf clubs.
And don't forget, while you're wandering around the golf course, you could be accumulating steps on your stride kick. So it's kind of like killing two birds with one stone.
There you go. Yeah. Board.
So speaking of doing things a little different or a little differently than usual, we're actually going to talk about video games right up front at the beginning of the show this time, because you were mentioning your love for golf and the Masters tournament, which kind of leads us into talking about various video games that are sort of focused around the sport of golf.
Well, the Masters just finished up, and it's like anything, when you start watching something and then you're like, I'm into it at that time. It's World Cup soccer, Masters. So watching the Masters, I thought, well, let's dig up one of my old golfing things. And actually, I even forgot that I had the Masters game. I thought I just had, Tiger Woods golf or EA golf, which I have, but I actually had the Masters, and it takes place in Augusta, Georgia, which is a very scenic course.
Legendary.
So I was looking through that, and it's I find the game itself is very it's relaxing. It's, you got to be in a mood for it. Sometimes, you want to have tanks or you want to have guns running around, but sometimes it's like, a Sunday afternoon, you're just like sitting in your couch or your recliner, and you just, it's like talk, and the ball, and the voices, everything's very calm and soothing, and the graphics are really nice. Everything's nice and green. So yeah, just some days I don't need anything that's like crazy, frantic kind of stuff, and it's a very scenic, calming game. Although, like real golf, you start missing shots, it can get sort of aggravating.
Oh yes, that's what I was going to say, is the soothing quality only lasts until you really start botching a lot of your strokes, and then your calmness might take a bit of a hit.
It dissipates. It's because you have the swing arm where you're sort of, it's like real golf. As long as you don't try to kill it, just swing it, make sure it's in that sweet spot, and then release it, and it'll go. The putting is kind of weird because it shows all the different angles where the cut is and stuff. So
yeah, that's almost like cheating if you leave the grid on.
Yeah. So I just, it's a fun one, and the Masters, of course, is because it's such a classic game that it was really fun to find that one. So it's for me, it has replayable. It's but I couldn't see myself doing it like all week kind of thing. It's just like, sometimes I just have you want a piece of fudge, it's not good to eat it every day, but you have it. But I thought it was fun. If you like golf, some people think it's like watching paint dry. I don't subscribe to that, but I understand that people would rather, because for me, my son loved playing the hockey NHL. I could never figure that out. It was too fast. I could never get them to pass properly. It was like, it was too much.
Yeah.
It's not like my mother. It was all too much. So
just throwing your hands up like, no, too many buttons.
So, yeah. So I know what I have the ability to do. So let's go with the
stay in your comfort zone. You are the king of the comfort zone, as we've established many times.
Exactly. Have you played any golf?
Yeah. I had some of the Tiger Woods games on various systems over the years. I'm also kind of a fan of some of like the goofy golf variants, right? Like a Mario Golf, or like there's a fairly popular indie game that's come out in recent years called Golf with Friends. That's pretty cool. It's like a putt golf, that you can play multiplayer with your buddies and kind of cuss them out for, beating you, basically. So that stuff like that's super cool. But I was thinking about it, and like I have played a lot of sports games over the years, right? Like your Maddens and your NHLs and racing games and all that sort of thing. But I think a really cool sort of subgenre in the game world is sort of like the fake sports games, right? Where it's like a sport that's not actually real. And that got me thinking about one of my favorite games from back in the day, back when I used to have an Amiga computer, which you probably never even heard of. And that was this game called Speedball, which was basically this pseudo futuristic sport where teams of 5. So you basically had like a goalie, 2 defensemen, and 2 forwards on each side, and they were running around these big metallic arenas, tossing this big metal ball, passing it off of each other and reflecting it off of the various metal surfaces, and trying to set up like bank shots and stuff like that to get them into the goal. And it was like super fast paced, super brutal. It was like a full contact kind of thing, where like a legit move in the game was just to like straight up walk up to another dude and punch him and lay him out and take the ball.
Was it like rollerball?
Yeah, kind of like a rollerball situation, but like instead of being on like a track where you're going around in a circle, right? You're just in a big open arena with these little obstacles like pylons and stuff that you can like ricochet shots off of. And then there were like little power-ups and stuff that you could pick up that would like improve the health of your guy, or like give you bonus points. And there were all these little like wrinkles to the gameplay, but the basic gist of it was like kill the other guy with the metal ball, grab the metal ball, and throw it into the goal to score. And I guess one of the other things that was kind of unique about it was that when you threw the ball, you could either throw it at ground level, which of course meant that it could be intercepted, by somebody kind of getting in between you and the person you're trying to pass it to, or the place you're trying to throw it at. Or you could hold the button and kind of lob it into the air to get it over obstacles or people, but then it traveled through the air more slowly, which gave the other team time to react to that play. And so there was always the question of like, do you do like the quick pass at ground level where it's like more of like a laser, going from point A to point B, or do you like use the lob to kind of take the ball over the thing, but give the other team more time to react to the play? And so that little dynamic of how the gameplay worked was really interesting. It always kind of struck me as a cool thing, right? It's like a game like that where it's like you're literally not only making a video game, but you're also inventing a sport, right? And all the rules associated with it, and figuring out how to make the AI play the game properly and all that sort of thing. So I just thought that would be kind of like a fun thing to shout out. Just like, yes, there are video games for real sports, but there are also video games for fake sports, which can be pretty cool. You ever play any fake sports video games that you could recall?
Not that I can really think of. I mean, I think I played a golf one that had like big heads.
Yeah, nice.
I remember because
like an NBA Jam kind of situation.
Yeah, it was big heads, and they had big clubs, and you just hit things, and it was just like whatever.
Yeah, nice.
Trying to think of anything else, but not really.
Yeah, it's not a super popular subgenre by any means. Like I could probably only think of a handful of things myself that fall into that. But like I say, Speedball in particular is one that definitely stuck with me, right? Because I played that game in the 80s, but I still think about it all the time. How cool
That's what they should do, is make a game of rollerball.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
Now you got me thinking about that, because I was actually first I was thinking, I'm pretty sure I got that on DVD somewhere. Should check it out. Now I want to watch it, but I was thinking, it would make a good game.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Little
team and going around the rink with your motorcycles and your skaters.
Mm-hmm. I would play that. I would play the hell out of that.
Yeah. I'm surprised no one's come up with that.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if maybe somebody did at some point, and I'm just not aware of it, because it just seems like that movie's like cult status would have put it on enough people's radar in the video game industry that somebody would have picked up on that by now. But like I said, maybe it does exist and I just don't know about it. But yeah, if it doesn't, somebody should get on that, because that would make a hell of a video game.
Yeah, because Michael and Ron, we want to play rollerball.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, get on that, EA. Do something useful for a change.
There you
go. So anyway, speaking of sort of outlandish, over the top things, that leads us nicely into a book that I recently read, to get us talking about books for a hot second, which was Snow Shark by Brian G. Barry. which I had threatened to read this book a while ago, and I'm making good on that promise now because I actually read the audiobook for it, and I actually have this post here from the audiobook narrator, Sean Duregger, who I thought did an absolutely excellent job narrating that book. So I would definitely highly recommend checking out the audiobook if you have the opportunity for this one. But basically, for those who are unaware, the whole idea of this book is it's about a nefarious government experiment to create a shark that's not only capable of surviving in fresh water, but also frigid temperatures, which, of course, as you might expect by the name of the book, means that this book or this shark can actually survive and thrive in snow. And as you might expect from that sort of outlandish premise, the shark ends up at a ski resort and mayhem ensues. So I'm sure you have thoughts about that. And if you have any thoughts you'd like to share, I'd be more than happy to expand on things further. But I guess the one other thing I will say about the book, just right off the top, is if you think you'll enjoy reading this book, you probably will, because it very much delivers on and makes good on its premise in pretty much every way you would hope for or expect. So I will kind of leave you to ponder that.
You can't really go wrong with Brian Barry. I mean, what we did on one of our episodes, Thanksgiving Day Massacre, and he's a riot to read, and so happy that you enjoyed Snow Shark.
Yeah, I definitely would give it one dorsal fin up for sure.
Perfect. Yeah. A lot of carnage.
Oh yeah. I'd say if there's any sort of like caveat or like kind of warning I might put out for that book, it would be that it is just super grim and super dark and super gory in a lot of ways, which, if you're into that sort of thing, you'll be in heaven. But if you're looking for something that's maybe more of like a feel good or like a fist pumping kind of like, adventure-y kind of thing, maybe less so with this one. But that's not to say that there aren't some great action elements and set pieces and things like that in it as well. But just kind of maybe go into it understanding, like I said, it's not like really a feel good read. It's more about the premise and more about like the just like all out ferociousness of it in a lot of ways, which I think a lot of people will find appealing for sure.
Yeah, he's a riot to read.
Yeah,
glad you liked it.
Yeah. So I know you read something recently that you really enjoyed.
Yes, Churn the Soil by Steve Stred.
Nice.
This was interesting. I guess for me, being like a northerner too, the sort of there's a sense of isolation because it's sort of in northern climes. So you have the sort of the isolation. You have the cold. You could like sort of feel it while you're reading it. It was it's basically, I mean, it's part creature feature, part mystery, part folk tale. You have this remote, I wouldn't say it's a village, remote community that most people kind of shun, I guess, but everyone's aware of it. And one of the police from the neighboring town, so I guess a bigger city, actually had lived there at one point, but it was very young, so he doesn't know all the kind of bizarre things. But a death takes place at this small community, and the police are brought in to investigate. And the one thing that makes a community really kind of spooky is you have the community, and it's surrounded by this big forest, but there's the thing called the clearing. And it's just this clear-cut piece of land between the community and the forest. It's like the no man's land in like World War I or something. And nobody after a certain time from the human side of the community is supposed to venture on that other side through the clearing. And that first person they found dead had made that mistake. And now the police are here to investigate. And
have you
chaos.
Just reached? Yeah, I was going to say, have you reached the boundary of spoiler town?
Yeah. So I don't, but it's a lot going on in the book. Without saying too much, you should enjoy it on your own without me telling you. But there is a character named Bruiser that a lot of people who've read it have kind of fallen in love with. And I think that you'll fall in love with it too if you give Churn the Soil by Steve Stred a chance.
Excellent. Sounds very intriguing for sure.
Yeah, it's I really enjoyed it. And as I said, I could really feel sort of the isolation, feel the northern winds blowing, in my head going, yeah, I'd have just packed up and left. I was like, it's a shame that person from your community died, but I'm out of here. Goodbye.
Nice. So not looking for a career in law enforcement, are we?
Yeah, no. That would entail me
a hard pass.
Getting involved with of stuff that I'm not interested in, like getting shot or
otherwise murdered,
maimed or anything. Yeah. So
that's fair. Yeah. That's fair. Everybody needs to know their happy place. Well, speaking of happiness, let's talk about something pretty positive that occurred recently, which is that you, my friend, were involved in a pretty cool charity effort that just occurred, which was the release of this horror anthology called Screaming for Peace. You want to let the people know what's up with that?
I was very lucky. And, as a coincidence, I just happen to have a copy right over here. Let me do it closer.
Oh,
like 3D.
Oh, everybody put your glasses on. Nice. Yeah.
Screaming for Peace.
I love that cover.
Feedback.
Yeah.
There's all the authors that are on it, including me. I have a story in there.
Yeah.
And the proceeds are going to the Ukrainian people who've been affected by the war, the illegal war. So a bunch of horror writers got together, put it together. It's a really nice looking cover. Lee Richmond and Mark Green kind of sort of headed it all up, but there's a whole plethora of people. I'm putting my finger on the thing.
Yeah.
So nice. If you have a chance, I just wanted to give it a plug.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody should check it out. I know I picked
Screaming for Peace.
Yeah, I know I picked up my copy as well, and I've actually already read the first story from it, which was Mirror Image by J.D. Allen. So that was a pretty interesting tale. It's very short. It's only about 10 pages, so I'm not really going to say too much about it, other than the fact that it's the basic setup of it is it's a guy who during like a normal mundane trip to the mall comes across his doppelganger, right? So another person who looks exactly like him, right? Walks and talks exactly like him, is dressed exactly like him, and that sort of precipitates a series of events that are kind of like the backbone of the story. So if you're into that sort of thing, I think it does like a kind of nifty job of taking that premise, which is very sort of well trod in the speculative fiction world, right? The idea of coming across like a clone of yourself or a duplicate of yourself, and kind of takes it in an interesting direction, which I definitely will not spoil. But I will say, having read that first story, I'm definitely intrigued to continue on with the collection and see where things go from there. And of course, I'll be saving Mr. McGillivray here's story for the end, because I need to know what's going on in his head, least of all, versus all those other folks.
Perfect. So if you haven't gotten it yet, Screaming for Peace. It's a good cause. And one of my stories is in it. Get it today.
Very nice. Very nice.
Before we go on,
yes,
I'd also like to mention that my book, Cutters Deep, is out. There's the back cover.
Very, very swank. Very swank.
The last episode, you brought it up so kindly, but I didn't have a copy yet. So now I have my copy.
Well, now they can see it in 3D, right? They can see it spinning and the pages flipping. It's very,
Cutters Deep. Nice. He's coming for you. So you should be getting. So when you're actually doing Amazon and getting Screaming for Peace, hit that button. You can get 2 of them. So shipping costs will be less. Get Cutters Deep and Screaming for Peace. Double whammy. Double your pleasure.
Absolutely. Do it.
This has been a public service announcement by me.
Yes. Super subtle marketing strategies with Ron McGillivray.
Yeah.
Good times.
Always.
So yeah, absolutely check all of that stuff out. And that kind of leads us into some other stuff to check out, because in our last regular episode, you talked about some podcasts. And I feel like it's my turn and my duty to talk about some podcasts that I've been listening to recently. So I'm going to throw a few of these out here, sort of rapid fire style, and just kind of let you know why I think they're cool and interesting. So up first, we've got Simultaneous Times, which is the official podcast of Space Cowboy Books, which is a bookseller here in the U.S. that specializes in science fiction. They just had their 61st episode, which was their 5-year anniversary episode, featuring 2 pretty cool short stories, one of which being like a sort of tightly crafted space adventure, and another one focusing on cloning and artificial bodies and all that sort of thing. And of course, I'm not going to spoil any of those stories, but I will say, if you're at all into science fiction, would highly recommend checking that episode out. It's very well done, very well narrated, and that podcast in general, I think, is definitely worth checking out as a general rule. So,
do they put out is it regularly stories from their stable, or?
Yeah, that's kind of the gist of the show, is that, it's always going to be at least 1 or 2 stories from authors who they work with, because they do a lot to promote, both traditionally published and indie authors, through their shop. And so the podcast is really just a way to help, boost their recognition. But they'd also do things like interviews and author readings and that sort of thing as well. But I kind of like the backbone or the bread and butter of the podcast is generally that you're going to get at least 1 story, per episode. And it'll be like, well produced and well narrated and all that sort of thing. It's, like I said, it's a really cool show. Would definitely recommend it. They don't do a ton of episodes, right? Because they, similarly to us, I think they only tend to release like maybe 1 a month. So even though they've been around for 5 years now, they're only on episode 61, or at least that's the one that was their 5-year episode. So it's not the kind of thing you're going to be overwhelmed with content, but that just means that the content they do tends to be very polished, right? It's a very slick show. A lot of cool music. They have like actual music artists who support them and make songs specifically for the show, which is very cool. So like I said, definitely one to check out. So staying in the science fiction and fantasy vein, I wanted to shout out the SFF Addicts Podcast, which is another good show that's been around for a while. And they recently did an interactive storytelling author roundtable with several authors who work in various interactive mediums, such as video games, choose your own adventure stories, and stuff along those lines. Basically anything that has an interactive component to it. Yeah. And it was really cool hearing them talk. They talked for like well over an hour and a half, I think it was, about a bunch of different stuff. Going back to video games really briefly, they brought up several times like the choice of series of games, which if you're not familiar with that, it's like choose your own adventure books in digital form that also have some kind of minor gameplay elements associated with them, where it's like you make some choices and maybe put in some numerical values and stuff like that in addition to making your choices, and that actually affects how the stories play out. One of my favorite books in that series is actually called Choice of Robots, which is all about like various different ways that robotics could end up impacting humanity in the near term, sort of in the context of a choose your own adventure narrative. I definitely highly recommend that one. But to go back to the podcast real quick, the show was just really good. Like, they were obviously talking from a place of experience, and touching on a lot of different subjects around interactive storytelling that I think anybody who has any sort of interest in that subject would find that discussion particularly informative and engaging. So definitely want to mention that one. Then we also have the Afronauts Podcast, which is a very cool show that focuses on people of color publishing speculative fiction. And they actually have a cool series called The Hero's Journey, where they highlight specifically Black authors who do speculative fiction. So the episode that I most recently listened to featured Tracy Dion, who is sort of pretty well known for the Legendborn series. And she had a lot of really interesting things to say, not only about her own books, but also kind of her experiences in the publishing world as a person of color, and like, a lot of the unique sort of things that she's had to deal with. And I think the thing that I was struck by listening to that particular episode was, I think anybody who is in a similar position could benefit a lot from hearing what she had to say about what that sort of journey was like for her. Because I think, like, if you're in a similar situation, you might come across a lot of the same things. So hearing that perspective from somebody who's kind of walked that path themselves, I think would be really valuable to anybody who could benefit from it. But the show in general, I think, is really good. I've listened to several episodes of it over the past year or so. So I definitely just recommend Afronauts in general. It's just a good, well done show.
Does she read like from her book as well?
So they don't really do readings so much on there, at least not the episodes that I've heard. It tends to be more author interview and like just general question, like Q&A type stuff. They do a lot of Q&A and a lot of like background on, like, because they're really focusing on people of color and how their experiences in the publishing world tend to differ from a lot of other people's experiences. It's really meant to be more of like an informative kind of almost like a tutorial kind of like forum type thing. And I think they really do a really good, like, effective job of presenting that stuff in a way that's very engaging and interesting. Even, obviously myself not being a person of color, I still find it very interesting to listen to and like get more insight into what that experience is actually like for folks who are in that situation. So there's that. And then the last one I wanted to talk about, just in the interest of keeping things moving, is the Sample Chapter Podcast, for two reasons. One of which, because they did a series recently where they were talking about sort of books by famous people. And it made me think about this whole concept of the idea of people only being known for one thing, right? So, if you're an actor, can you also be an author? Or if you're a musician, can you also be an actor, right? And all that sort of thing. And it always kind of strikes me as odd or strikes me as interesting, when I'll hear people say like, oh, I don't want to read that book because it's written by an actor, right? Or I don't want to watch that movie because it has a guy from a rock band or a professional wrestler as an actor in it or something like that. And I always think it's funny, right? The idea that like people can only be one thing in a lot of people's minds. So I always like the idea of like people who kind of cross mediums with their creativity. And this one particular episode I listened to, I really enjoyed and thought was worth calling out, which was Lou Diamond Phillips, the actor, actually also writes science fiction. And so he had a book, The Tinderbox, which he was talking about and read the first chapter from on this show. And I thought that was like a pretty fun, engaging episode. And of course, Sample Chapter Podcast has been around forever. They've done tons of episodes. And Jason Meisky, really done a lot for like the writing community in general, just to like get people out there and get their stuff in front of people through that podcast. And so I definitely wanted to shout it out. I thought this was like a good opportunity to talk about it because, like I said, they've done so many episodes for so many years. I feel like that's a good show to check out if you haven't already.
Does he cover all books, or is he especially genre books, or?
Pretty much everything, but I think he definitely tends to lean towards genre fiction. Is kind of my experience. At least most of the episodes that I've heard have been genre fiction books and authors. But I wouldn't be surprised, if he's had like romance authors on there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because like I said, he's done so many episodes, and I certainly haven't heard them all. But I really like the way he approaches his interactions with authors, and just the way he kind of presents everything and sets up the scenario of them then going to read their sample chapter. I think is always pretty good and engaging and interesting. So it's definitely one that, like I said, I haven't heard every show by any means, but the ones I have heard, I definitely have enjoyed and definitely thought like, oh, I wish I had more time to listen to more of this. So shout out to Jason and Sample Chapter Podcast for sure.
There you go. And it had Lou Diamond Phillips in it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're if you're curious about like what's Lou Diamond Phillips like as a sci-fi writer, that might be one to check out.
Cool.
But speaking of crossing genres, I believe it is your turn to talk about some music.
Yes. But I have a question before I go on.
Yes.
My question is, a lot of times when we play or talk about our music, we have like picture graphics. Are we going to crank up so we can actually hear a song this time? Are we even allowed to do that?
That's probably going to be a no-no from a copyright standpoint. At least
that's too bad.
At least not for any significant length of time. I might be able to sneak a little bit in the background. I'll see what I can do about that. But generally speaking, that is a really good way to get your video flagged for copyright.
Right. Well, there'll be no music for Nightwish.
Yeah. But why don't you go ahead and explain to the people why they should be sorely disappointed that they're not maybe hearing a bunch of music in the background as we talk.
Well, this band, Nightwish, is bombastic. They are a symphonic metal band. It's almost like you're listening to like a soundtrack, of like a movie.
Very cinematic.
It's very the sound is just, like I said, it's bombastic.
Nice.
They're incredible live. It was a fellow that I'd worked with years ago. I was in actually a parking garage, and he was playing it. I guess you know when you pull in and there's a song that you really like, and you sit in your car until it's finished. Well, that's what he was doing, and I came out, and it was just like I'd never really heard anything like it. So I wandered over. I was like, "What is that?" And he said, "Oh, this is Nightwish." And I was like, "They're like a Scandinavian band." And I was like, "Okay." So I kind of got in the car, I listened to it, and then I checked it out later and became completely hooked. And as luck would have it, they were actually coming to Montreal like several months later. And I was thinking, should I go? Should I go? So actually I talked to the guy who introduced me to him. I said, "Do you want to go?" So
Nice.
we went.
Nice.
And they were everything I thought and more. It just, as I said, it's such a unique sound. If you haven't heard it, just Google Nightwish. The song, I think that the video that's playing is Ghost Love Score. But Wishmaster is another one. You can go onto YouTube, check it out. It's a really good one. And they do actually a really cool rendition of Phantom of the Opera.
Yes.
So that's really cool. So that'll give you. So if you go Ghost Love Score, Wishmaster, Phantom of the Opera by Nightwish, put it in YouTube or Spotify. Listen to those three. Over the Hill is another good one. Pick those ones. If you like any of those ones, you're gonna like Nightwish. If you don't like what you hear, then it's probably not for you. But
Yeah, nice.
they're great, great live, great musically. It's very seldom do I have a band where you listen to it and right off the bat you're hooked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, oh yeah, it's catchy, and then it kind of grows on you. This one was like, it's like, wow, this is just so cool. And then it was just like well, back then it was CDs, like one CD after another, accumulating all their collection. So
Nice.
they even bought a DVD of a concert footage,
Oh, wow.
and it was a hassle to get in Canada too. But finally got it. But now
Nice.
you can YouTube and watch concerts and different things. Different times, Michael. Different times.
Yeah, the struggle is not nearly as real as it once was when it comes
Yeah.
to finding stuff like that. As for
You'd
sure.
order. I think I waited like 6 months till my friggin' DVD came. It was like unbelievable.
But he's not bitter, folks. No, not
Yeah.
at all.
But and I played it to death.
Nice.
But I think I got a second one too. I should go downstairs because ever since YouTube came, I don't really look at the DVDs. All the money I spend on DVD concerts, never do it because it's so easy just to hit YouTube and watch concert. You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that's really rough about DVD collections, right, is everything's 480p anyway, right? So it's like if you're watching most stuff on YouTube, it's at a higher resolution than your DVDs would have been anyway. And so like that's the thing that I always lament, right, is all the DVDs I bought back in the day. And it's like if I really wanted to watch that movie now, I'd rather stream it because it's going to look better on streaming anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
But,
the only good thing about having all the DVDs I got is there's some movies you just can't find.
yeah,
So
for
I can
sure.
always revert back to that.
For
But
sure.
yeah, I look at them. Now they're just kind of just a collection. Something for me to physically touch and then go watch upstairs streaming.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. But
So,
I was just going to say, as far as Nightwish goes, I was really surprised when I started looking into them because I actually had not previously heard of them before you brought them up. I was really surprised how far back their discography goes, because they're way back into the 90s is when they first kind of got started. And I think you were mentioning too that they've actually had multiple singers, or at least a couple different singers at this point.
They had one main one for a long time. I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name because I'll probably
destroy it.
Yeah. But she left and now she's solo. And they've had a couple of others. The new one is an excellent singer.
Nice.
So I really enjoy her. She's got a great voice. But yeah, it's they're female. All of their singers have been female singers or lead singers, anyways. And that was the whole thing. Well, the first one was very operatic, her voice, because I think she was opera trained. So to hear this symphonic metal that was so bombastic, and then have this voice soaring over it, it was just, the whole thing was so unique. So I got hooked. And now the new singer also has a very strong voice as well, so she can carry the older tunes well, plus their new stuff. So yeah, I definitely should suggest try Nightwish. I give it 2 thumbs up.
Ooh, two thumbs up. I was only giving it 1 because I'm new to it, but that's probably the way to go. I'll probably get to the 2 thumbs up stage eventually.
Well, you just keep listening to them, and soon you'll be like the whole heavy metal 4 fingers.
We'll be going to 11.
Yeah, we'll be up to 11. Turn it up. So yeah. So that's my pick this month. Nightwish. I think you should check it out. I'll just recap. YouTube, go to Ghost Love Score, Wishmaster, Phantom of the Opera, or Over the Hill. Those songs will either capture you, they won't. But they're an incredible band.
Yeah, well, I'll drop some links into the show notes, make life easy for all you, because that's my way.
Perfect.
Good times. All right. Well, moving things along, let's discuss our last topic for the day, which is movies. And you actually had a movie that I had not thought about at all since I had seen it. But now, ever since you brought it up, I've been thinking about it a lot. I'll let the people know about your movie pick for this time.
Well, today it's kind of an obscure movie, and actually I had it on my to-be watched list for a while, never got around to it. Then I finally did, and it's called The Void. It has, I guess, the whole Lovecraft mythos behind it. This movie is actually really hard to describe or explain, kind of just all the stuff that's going on. I mean, as I said, it's definitely influenced a lot by Lovecraft. You have a small group. They're in an almost empty hospital. That's it's being. I can't remember. I think it's being closed down. I think they're moving everything to a newer hospital. So this one's being closed down. So it's like limited staff. All the hallways are like empty. Anyways, an incident happens, and this small group of people end up at this slowly closing hospital. And then all of a sudden you're dealing with monsters, a cult, gore galore. It was that I think was one of the big surprises. I was like, wow, they really jumped in with both feet with this one. And for a while I was like, I have absolutely no idea what's going on, and it was just a lot of crazy mayhem. Then of course it starts getting explained, and then of course that's where they really kind of reach, I guess, into that Lovecraft mythos.
Yeah, that playbook gets dusted off for sure. that sort of
but
cosmic, existential, interdimensional kind of vibe gets to be pretty heavy by the end for sure.
Yeah, but at the beginning, it's like it's like abandoned places are creepy, anyways, And then you have the sort of the
well, then you have like the
group.
weird stuff happening in the place too, right?
Yeah.
With like the patients and all that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like you're not exactly sure what's causing all of the weird things to happen at first, and like I know when I saw it, I was kind of wondering, like, okay, is there some like mundane explanation for this, right? Is somebody just messing with them? Or, but then it becomes sort of clear pretty quickly that there's something sort of supernatural going on.
Yeah. Well, the whole sort of the cult thing too, sort of coming out and surrounding the place. It's kind of creepy as well. So,
yeah.
But,
that's a very unique one. That's definitely one that stands out, right? Like I feel like if you've seen that movie, you're not going to forget that you saw it. I wouldn't necessarily say it's like a favorite of mine, but it definitely like stuck in my head for sure.
Yeah. It was, I liked the premise when I first saw it. It was like, so that's why I put it on my list, so I wouldn't forget about it. So I clicked on it, so it was in my watch list, because it was like, the trailer showed the group, trapped in the hospital, and then you saw sort of the cult outside. So well, that's a cool premise. Did not expect all the other stuff. So actually, I was pleasantly surprised that it went the way it did. I thought it was much better than I thought. I thought it was just going to be a lot of like deaths and just cult people macheting people. So, but it wasn't that.
And again, like it's hard to talk about some of the more interesting parts of the movie without giving too much away. So yeah, that's another one where you kind of just need to see it if you're at all intrigued by the premise, I'd say.
Yeah.
But speaking of which, that movie coming up definitely made me stop and think about one of my favorite movies by probably my favorite director, which is John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness, which is his sort of homage or take on the whole Lovecraftian cosmic horror thing that I think is sort of criminally underrated, especially in the sort of pantheon of his filmography.
I enjoyed that movie.
Yeah,
I don't know why it didn't get more love.
Yeah, another great performance by Sam Neill. Another great non-Jurassic Park performance by Sam Neill. I know I've talked about my love for Event Horizon previously on the show. I'd say I similarly love his performance in that. But also the guy who plays Sutter Kane, the sort of faux Stephen King stand-in author in that movie. I know I'll probably butcher his name, but I think it's something like Jurgen Proctor, something like that. He is really great in that movie. I don't think I've actually seen him in anything else, but I was looking on his IMDb, and apparently he was actually in Das Boot back in the day. But I don't think I would have known that if I hadn't looked it up. But his performance in that movie is another kind of standout, like memorable thing for me about it, because he's just so creepy and just captivating. Like every moment that he's on screen, I was just like transfixed on the screen because he did such a good job of selling like the creepy horror writer vibe that he was trying to put off on that.
Yeah, Sutter Kane is such a cool name too.
Yeah,
it was just he was an amazing villain.
Yeah, and of course, obviously, you can't really talk about like the details of the plot and the story of that film without ruining it, because so much of the joy of that film is just getting to experience it and not really knowing what you're in for. Yeah. But trust me, that movie's worth a watch. Like if you're a horror fan, if you're a cosmic horror fan, if you're a John Carpenter fan, if you're just just a fan of good movies, like that is a movie I feel like everybody should watch at least once, because I feel like it's one of those movies where the less you know about it going into it, the better the experience is going to be, and the more it'll have the potential to like shock you and like blow your mind. I know there's a few scenes from that movie that I think are some of my favorites, like in any film ever. So
yeah,
I definitely would highly recommend that one for sure.
Well, it's because it's based on Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's once again, it's like both of our movies have that kind of Lovecraftian mythos thing going.
Yeah.
And Sam Neill plays an insurance agent.
Yeah.
Fine
a great
job.
Skeptic.
Yes.
Plays a great skeptic in that movie. Yeah.
He's like an investigator. Like not an insurance agent. He's I guess he investigates fraud or something.
Yeah, he's trying to debunk all the mythos surrounding this whole Sutter Kane situation. Yeah.
That's,
which makes the way things play out like that much better, right?
Yeah.
It's such a perfect setup for where things end up going. But again, I can't really talk about it any more than that. Just watch the movie. Trust me.
That's another one I'm gonna have to go ball. So I'm gonna have to pull out my In the Mouth of Madness. I haven't seen that in a long time. Is it streaming anywhere?
Well, I was just going to say, I'll mention that there's this post here from the Disc Father about that movie coming to 4K Blu-ray recently. So if you don't have it on physical media already, you might want to check that out. But I'm sure somebody's got it streaming somewhere. I mean, I own it, so I wouldn't need to go look for it anywhere. But I'm sure somebody's got to have that movie streaming. It would be a crime if you couldn't just watch it on demand.
Yeah,
I'd say that's maybe one of John Carpenter's last really great movies. I would argue. Like, I think he's had a few things after that were pretty noteworthy, like Cigarette Burns, but like Mouth of Madness, that was something else.
Yeah, it was a very multi-layered movie. It's I'm gonna have to dig it up. I know it's downstairs somewhere.
Yeah. So. Just make sure you find it before it finds you.
Yes. Fine pick.
Good times. All right. Well, that is going to bring us to the end of another episode, and we'll be creeping up here on our 12th episode for next time. We got something a little bit special planned for you folks, which I will not spoil, but be sure to stay tuned for that.
Am I invited?
Yeah, absolutely. You can come and hang out. I was, I was thinking about, just doing it solo, but that wouldn't be any fun.
You're funny.
Any parting thoughts or advice you'd like to impart to the viewers?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say here
after the show,
every opportunity to get another book plug in here. Yeah, nice.
Screaming for Peace and Cutters Deep together, and you'll have hours of entertainment.
I concur.
Enjoy.
Congratulations. You just survived the Post-Mortem Report. For more information about the show, the hosts, or the things they talked about, visit our official website at postmortemreport.com. And always remember, good posts never die.
There's a lot of great authors in there.
Mm-hmm. I can think of at least
just one great author here.
Yeah, nice.
But everyone's going to be watching In the Mouth of Madness and The Void, and then heading off to watch Nightwish.
As usual, we've managed to sabotage ourselves with our excellent recommendations, but that's okay.
But if you buy the books, you put them on your coffee table, people will just think you're cool anyways. So you should get them anyways, even if you are.
I can't argue with that.
So are we going to hook up and play the Masters on Golf Online after this?
I don't think I have that one. I don't know that I ever actually had that one. I think I had I don't think I actually had a serious golf game until Tiger Woods. I mean, I had like one of the first Tiger Woods games, like back in the 2000s, but I don't think I really had anything. I know my uncle had like Lynx back in the day, like Lynx and Lynx LS and stuff like that, but I never really got interested enough in golf to want to have a golf game until I was like out of college and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But good times.
Yeah,
I'm going to end things way before this, so this is all just bonus material. This is maybe our after,
goodbye, everybody.
Yeah, this is our after outro.
After thing.
Yeah. All right, stopping the recording.